Welcome to Friendly Math 101. Today our lesson is on simplifying radicals. We've posted a tutorial on how to simplify radicals before, but it was by using prime factorization. This is a different method for simplifying radicals by finding the perfect squares that go into these numbers. So before we get started, it's important that you print off a list of all the perfect squares. And we've only printed a list from 0 to 15 because those are the most common numbers. But you try to find the largest perfect square that goes into this number. So I know that 9 divides evenly into 18. And so I'm going to rewrite this as the square root of 9 times 2, because 9 times 2 is 18. And we could break this apart into the square root of 9 times the square root of 2. And we know that the square root of 9 is actually 3. So the simplified radical would be 3 times the square root of 2. Let's go ahead and try the same method with 216. So I look at my list of perfect squares and I know that 36 divides evenly to 216. And so I could rewrite this as 36 times 6, and I could break this apart even further, the square root of 36 times the square root of 6, and I know that the square root of 36 is actually 6. So we could rewrite this as 6 times the square root of 6. Let's take a look at a couple more examples. So here we have a larger number, 384. Again, I'm still looking at that list of perfect squares, and I kind of start towards the top if it's going to be a big number. But this would be 64 times 6. We could rewrite this as the square root of 64 times the square root of 6, and we know that the square root of 64 is actually 8. So the simplified radical is 8 times the square root of 6. With 63, this is a smaller number, so I would start at the bottom, but I know that this could be rewritten as 9 times 7, and again, we could break that apart into the square root of 9 times the square root of 7, and the square root of 9 is 3. So I could rewrite this as 3 times the square root of 7. All right, let's do two more examples. So the square root of 32 could be rewritten as the square root of 16 times 2. And again, we could break this apart into the square root of 16 times the square root of 2. And we know that the square root of 16 is actually 4. And so this could be simplified to 4 times the square root of 2. With 72, 36 divides evenly, so I'm going to rewrite this as 36 times 2, and then we're going to break that apart even further, and we know that the square root of 36 is actually 6, so the simplified radical is 6 times the square root of 2. That concludes our lesson on how to simplify radicals by finding the largest perfect square that goes into these. Again, it's helpful to have a list of the perfect squares next to you. But if you have any questions, leave those questions in the comment section below. And for more math tutorials, subscribe to our channel, Friendly Math 101.